Hello and welcome. We are back. We're here. We're live. It is a Thursday. Can you believe it? Normally we're early trying to get this on, but with the international break, we've had our feet up, we've been chilling out, and we're like, hey, we'll let the dust settle, and then we'll get together and we'll find out some winners and some losers on the Euro Draft Show on Sorare TV. I'm Quinny, and as ever, I'm joined by Jeremy. Jeremy, good to see you, mate.
Good to see you, Quinny. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. And Fedo coming in there. I think he's in for the tap in at the beginning. But Fedo, good to see you too, mate.
Yeah, obviously, always a pleasure, and it's gonna be fun to talk to my guys again.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
Quinny, I saw you had a big purchase. Do you want to tell us more about the purchase first? I saw you got rid of Damen.
Oh yeah, so I was going to say which ones. It's been a wee while since I've seen you, Fedo, but yeah. So well, Finn Damen is champion Euro, so I guess I can mention it, I suppose, and I won't feel too bad. But when I got Finn, it was like I think I maybe traded him against 0.7 is like a market value, but I think he was maybe selling for about 0.5, 0.6. And the idea was he transferred his L15 and 40s, didn't look like a starting goalkeeper, obviously. So I thought, I'll get him his start, and if he's useful, like, brilliant. And if he's not useful, while he is useful, try and turn him into somebody maybe a little bit better somehow. And actually, early morning yesterday, I didn't plan on doing any of that stuff. I hadn't looked at a Joe Hart or thought anything about it, right? But as you guys might know, I also had a Craig Gordon in the club, and he broke his leg like a year ago, double leg break. He's like he's had a mad speedy recovery. And anyway, he's been pictured in training, and like there's interviews coming out of Hearts now saying like, oh, after the international break, it's going to be Gordon versus Xander Clark. Who's going to be the goalkeeper? And I had like two wee crappy offers for the Gordon that for the utility he will give. He'll play a couple of games now, undoubtedly. Whether he gets back, just keep him. And then out of nowhere, I got an offer of like 0.31, like full ETH, just straight for him. 40-year-old goalkeeper coming back from a double leg break, to compete with two other goalkeepers. I was like, yeah, give me that. So I accepted that. And then I was like, right, okay, well, is this what I need to turn Damen into something better? And then going into the market, for what I needed, like I really need the Celtic fixture correlation. And there's a few SPL options. There's a few guys that kind of I was like, let's just go and get the guy. Let's just go and get Hart. And then like we'll call it a season. He's the goalkeeper for the season. And like one thing it's always put me off buying the super rares. Number one, it's always been mad expensive because of how much money people have paid for Carter Vickerses and these other types of players that Celtic have, at that level.
Yeah.
So it's always been too mad expensive because he is 35, 36 now. And the worry has been after Celtic, what does he do? And he's not been that great at Celtic. So there's maybe been a SO5 legitimate worry that he disappears after Celtic, But with his form early, this season so far under Brendan Rodgers, I've got more confidence that after the Celtic contract, he'll get a contract somewhere else. Hopefully not Saudi, hopefully MLS. I'd love to see him go to Miami, team up with Beckham and all that, 'cause he's an England international and all that stuff, So like, I don't think he's done. So I thought, hey, if I only get use out of him for this season, then it'll be worthwhile. And then maybe it goes longer. Cross my fingers on that, but so that's kind of how it came about.
6.
Yeah,
he can do 2 more years as a goalie.
Yeah, potentially. So, yeah, big move for me, Fedo. Thanks for asking. And it really does set me off. It does kind of free up my champion Euro keepers because like champion Euro is a competitive, or now as we're going to be calling it, I guess you guys have seen the update to the Sorare homepage, but the pro section of the game, for the pro cards and stuff like that. My pro champion Euro cards, like I can keep my goalkeepers a bit closer to, I got a Goretzka. I thought that might have been what you were asking about. And I've got a few other guys in Champ Euro. So my 2 super rare Champ Euro keepers can now stay a bit closer to all the Champ Euro players, a bit tighter, So good times at my club, certainly. And in the international break, you guys were talking about doing trades and deals as well. We were talking about some winners and losers. But when you have come into this international break, have you taken the opportunity to do any sort of pruning of the club or managing of the roster as it is?
Yeah, I did a bit of a change. I bought Julian Alvarez last year, and I kept wondering, how high is he going to get? How is he going to get? And I see like Grealish is back, and Foden is back, and Doku is actually doing okay. Although I didn't think he was going to do any okay. And I was always wondering, when does Alvarez stop playing for City, even though he keeps scoring? And I know this week is actually good for Alvarez because There's no Messi in Argentina, so the price kept going up. And so basically this week, what I did is I flipped Alvarez for a Griezmann 23-24, which was more expensive. And then when I had Griezmann, I was like, keep him or not, because obviously he's a really high scorer, but I needed goalkeepers to go with my Champion defenses. So I flipped Griezmann for Pau Lopez and Murillo. So now I have Pau Lopez as the Marseille keeper, who's got only a 42 in the last 15 because I got Gigot and Mbemba, so it's going to play with them. And I got Murillo that I want to use for my 220 super rare because I have Neto Borges, who unfortunately got a red card right now, but because Clermont is that team that every other game is going to be good defensively, so I'll use him for it. So obviously not the level that you're doing, but in the rare, I did a bit of this, picked a couple of Ligue 1, Ligue 2 player, got Jean-Claire Todibo, which we'll talk about with one of the winners for France because he's doing very well at Nice right now. And I know he moved, and I got, not Champion, but I got one of your boys, Quinny, with Kyogo joining the team.
Nice. Sorry about the noise there. I was just doing a wee post just saying we're live, sort of stuff, and it was just I couldn't get it to shut up. I was like, so sorry about that. What about yourself, Fedo? Have you been active in the market, buddy, over the last couple of days into this international break?
No, I haven't. I haven't. Problem we have it just in the national breaks are always a bit difficult, bit tricky. The market gets a lot more illiquid than it used to. It is normally, basically. So I have some players on sale. Let's see what comes out of this. I have one big player in mind I want to buy very soon as I have the funds and as soon as he is on auction. And but I'm basically saving up for that guy, and hopefully he's not coming too soon because I still don't have the funds for him. So he's going to be a bit more expensive, let's say that.
Yeah, it's nothing worse than finding that sweet spot between they come out quick enough that you can get them before they're discovered, but you need time to build the wallet. And then, I'm with you all the way on that. But it's a fine line to tread.
I don't think it's so hard to discover the guy like him, to be honest. It's just it makes the most sense for me, and I need him in my gallery because of other cards that I have in my gallery, basically.
Nice. So for the show today, and we'll be back next week, and do the part 2, as it were. We're looking at winners and losers across the top 5 leagues in Europe. Of course, we were messing about with the comments before we got Fedo into some draft action, which was some good fun as well. So for the draft modes in particular, or for any of the pro level gaming that we're all doing here now. So we're starting with the winners this week, and I think between the three of us, we've got a good coverage across the top 5 leagues in Europe for the draft itself. Is anyone itching to go first?
No.
Fedo, you go. I like your chats.
You like my chats. That's very nice to hear, Jerry. Okay, where do you want to start? Should we start Bundesliga or we want to start Serie A? I don't know. Probably Bundesliga.
Let's start with Serie A, because Serie A normally gets kicked to the end of most of the shows.
Yeah, so let's do Serie A, I think. Let's show some love to Serie A. That's perfectly fine. So I have like 3 big winners in as per se of teams, like which I really, really like. They did really good, and I think their style of playing is gonna have a lot of future, and I think it's gonna be a fun season for them. So number 1, I think Quinny's gonna love that. I think Bologna had an amazing start to the season, to be honest, and I think Thiago Motta really got them running and see it's possible for them. They even beat. Did they beat or did they draw against Inter? Which is crazy because Inter, it was so good until that point. I don't know if they lost Zirkzee for a long time because I think he's injured. I don't know how injured he is. I think it's like 6-7 weeks, but it's working so good. Orsolini is doing his bits, and Thiago Motta is a phenomenal gaffer. I think he was very good when he was at La Spezia as well. And it was a good decision from Bologna to sign him. And Orsolini is really good. This Swiss guy, we talked, I think, in the first episode when Bologna played Milan. I said, okay, look at this Swiss guy because he looks very good and very decent. And ever since I saw him, I think he's a very good player and he's going to have a bigger career than Bologna. Other than that, Zirkzee is playing decent under Thiago Motta, which is kind of new because Zirkzee never was good outside of Bayern Munich, but it seems he has found his fit in Bologna and the style of play with Thiago Motta. And of course, you have a very big, huge SO5 scorer as well with Skorupski now. I think he has been very, very good on Sorare the last 6, 7, 8 game weeks. And yeah, I'm impressed about Bologna. Orsolini, as I said, he's back healthy and fit. He's a very, very good player. He's a bit like a Berardi type of player. He's probably the second best player outside the top teams after Berardi, in my opinion. And it was just a matter of time. And he was injured at the beginning, so they had a bit of a wait through, let's say that. But now he's back and fully healthy, and it really translates on how Bologna plays. So I was really, really surprised how much better they gotten, because I think they lost 4-0 against Milan in the first game, which I saw when I said, okay, Milan's great, or 2-0, sorry. And but since then they really grasped the grass and have been going strong forward, and I really enjoy watching them. The other team I think is really good at the moment. I think we have.
Wait, stay on Bologna. Stay on Bologna.
Yeah,
stay on Bologna.
Bologna first.
They in France, they talk about Bologna a lot because Thiago Motta was rumored to go to PSG in the off season before they made the choice of going to Luis Enrique, and they keep talking about Thiago Motta still maybe coming because they're afraid that Luis Enrique is going to go whatever. So like we followed a little bit what he does, and like those 4, I think it was 4 clean sheets in a row before they play against Inter. Like everybody just says how good he is, and I didn't know that, but he was in the same FIFA coaching promotion than Pirlo, and Pirlo finished first, and Thiago Motta finished second. And I'll find it and I'll send it to you guys. I have it in French, and he wrote a whole thesis about the football that he plays, and those theses are made public by FIFA after they graduate, and it's like passionate how he talks about football and what he says, etc. And you can see in the way they play. I mean, he's in Bologna, so he does with the means that he have. But he's obviously like a coach that, whether it's PSG or somewhere in Italy rather, because he feels right now that he's doing so good in Bologna that one of the big Italian clubs is going to jump on him rather than him going to Paris. I think we have a coach who's have a pretty
Napoli has
good
an
career
opening
in front of him starting.
Napoli does have an opening.
Napoli has an opening.
Conte said no, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I think De Laurentiis doesn't want to pay him 8 million a season as well. I think he's a very pragmatic businessman, and he doesn't want to spend 8 million on a gaffer.
I really hope that they give the job to Tudor. I really hope that happens because he's just gung-ho attack. So that could be fun for Napoli. Seriously, I was actually going to pick... Oh, sorry, on you go.
I really hope, but I don't think it's going to happen. I actually really hope they give it to Marcel Gallardo, the guy from River.
Yeah.
Who's still... That would be great. I think that would be fun to watch as well. But I don't think he wants to coach anymore. What I read the last things is he just wants to be in the more management level of River now.
No, he's not got that fight in him. What I was going to say is one of my winners I was going to pick out for this was individually Lewis Ferguson, because like Bologna, obviously I'm quite close to watching the results come in because of the goalkeeper. And Lewis Ferguson being Scottish, I'm never too far away from checking how he's done, in those games. And he's been brilliant, man. He's really stepped up. And again, for maybe some of you guys, this might be a wee bit of good intel or whatever, but Lewis Ferguson's dad and his uncle, they both used to play for Rangers and stuff like that. It's like a kind of bit of a footballing family, as it were. And anyway, his dad does a podcast, would you believe? It's one of the biggest kind of football podcasts in Scotland that he's on. He's not like the main guy in it, but he's on it. And anyway, Ferguson signed a contract extension with Bologna, I believe. And the dad says quite blatantly, like, they've been contacted by like bigger clubs in Italy for him. His performances so far have been great. He's playing defensive mid, he's playing attacking mid, he's playing off the striker, he's playing out wide and coming in as a playmaker. He's not that fast, he's not that strong, but he's effective, and he's definitely a winner early season in Serie A. He's grabbing a lot of headlines and a lot of the good Bologna results. He is firmly in the mix of it.
1000%. I think he's a quality player, to be honest. He lacked AAs and decisives, but when the decisives coming, he's this nice, brilliant, very dark greens, which is very nice. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen to Tijani Reinders, because on the pitch he's always one of the two best on the pitch, but he never has any decisive, and he's just lacking those in his scores. And when they come, he's gonna score brilliantly as well on Sorare, because it's just a matter of happening. And he just misses. They miss so many chances he creates. It's unbelievable, and he's always top 2 on the pitch, and I think he has been the biggest signing for Milan this season so far, and he's brilliant. I love him, and I loved him watching at Alkmaar, and I knew that he would shine in him. I hope he's going to have a very great career, hopefully with Milan. And but let's not talk about him. He's not. I just wanted to say, because you mentioned Lewis Ferguson, I think that could be a similar path, something like that, in scoring wise.
Yeah, got you. So that's kind of me and Fedo for round 1, I suppose. Jeremy, who's your winner?
I have a winner in France. Let's go to France if that works for you.
Nice.
We're not finished in Italy. We're not finished. We need to
Oh,
talk
are we
about
not?
the biggest single winner of player.
Okay.
That's probably
I think Bologna was his plat de résistance. Now we go to the main one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest single winner as a player is Lautaro Martinez. How good this guy has been this season is unbelievable. Like, that's Ballon d'Or good, how good he has been. And he was carrying Inter the whole time. He scored every time. And he's such a leader on the pitch. Like, it sickens me to say, but yeah, he's very good. And and Inter should be very, very, very glad that they have him as a captain. And so Inter really, really surprised me the most as how good they played. But I think Simone Inzaghi is a very, very, very good coach, and it's gonna be very tough between ourselves, Milan, and Inter, who's gonna win the Scudetto. And as we predicted as well in the beginning of the season, Juve is doing good. I think they found the path. They started to playing real football again, and it translates on the pitch as well. And having a healthy Chiesa is so important for them and so important for the Serie A. And you see how much better Juve already just plays if Chiesa's healthy. And Juve, I don't think it's gonna be a contender for title this season, but definitely I would be shocked if they don't make the Champions League, to be honest.
Fair.
I think Ugo Rossonero is keen for you to talk about Milan, Fedo.
Yes, to be honest, Milan, I'm very glad how our results have been. To be honest, very, very glad. And we played good against Dortmund. We should have won against Dortmund. We should have won against Newcastle. Those 2 games we should have won, and we didn't, and that's a pity. In the Serie A, I don't think we played that brilliantly. To be honest, we just came from a lot of heart and a lot of individualism. Like, we had players like Leao who did that, or Pulisic who did that. But I think there's a lot of room to grow for us. That's why I think a little slightly more favorite than Inter, because Inter has going to be a lot more games as well, in my opinion. And I think Milan, the basis is incredible, what we can do. And Tijani Reinders is such a regista. He is so good. He can play everywhere in the midfield. Like, I can't get tired of praising how good Tijani Reinders is. I'm sorry. And Leao is phenomenally good. He just needs to be more consistent. Like, on one day he is prime Messi, on the other day he plays like, I don't know, but you know what I mean. And that's Leao. He needs to get this consistency. I'm very, very surprised how good Pulisic has been, to be honest. I would have never thought he would have made that much of an impact. Honest to God, like, I wouldn't have imagined. But he has been really crucial for Milan. And Giroud is a god. And that was the greatest save I've seen in a long time. So great. Did you see the last 10 minutes? It was like the best 10 minutes of football I had in a long time.
That was good crack
Good
for
on
sure.
Sorare for doing the goalkeeper jersey card for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That was a good one. So, Jeremy, who's your first winner?
So there's a bit of a segue with Serie A, right? Because we're going to talk about a team that is coached by a former Serie A assistant coach, and I want to talk about Nice in southeast of France. And so the coach, as Nice, used to be De Zerbi's assistant. It's Farioli is his name, and he's making a name for himself at Nice. And I mean, it's pretty simple. In 8 games, they've only conceded 4 goals, and 2 of those 4 goals were against Paris Saint-Germain. So it's 5 clean sheets in 8 games. Sort of luckily or skills, see how you want. Against Monaco, Marcin Bulka saved 2 penalties as well, so it helps for the keeper and for his AA. But Nice is actually playing well. It's not De Zerbi football. Like no one should go to see him thinking that's what's going on. It's more something of a mix between I don't know, like a Diego Simeone and a good version of Mourinho, which is a lot of very strong defensive play and some good position football and some good build up. But what he's done very well is he knows the talent that he has in his team and he's playing on that talent. So you have Mofi up front and Job up front that are very quick, and you have Laborde, who's a very hard worker. And so what they do is basically you'll see the like going maybe too much into tactics, but you'll see the forwards dropping really low and attracting the defense to defend higher and higher, and then using Mofi and Diop to surprise them in counter-attack. And the goals against PSG are exactly that. And so even though it's harder for them to play against teams that are a bit more regrouped, like Brest and Metz the last couple of games, half of the game this season they're going to play against teams who will come and look for them, because Nice is technically not a top team. So they have at least 5-6 teams all on top of them that will play hard against them. And against those teams, they're going to really hurt. Like I think Nice-Marseille happening next week is going to be pretty dreadful for me and my Marseille fans, because Nice does that very well. And where you see the best results, I guess, as far as Sorare goes, is obviously in defense, because there's a lot of, what you would call sterile possession when they're not playing against a PSG or a Monaco or a Lyon, where the ball just goes from defender to midfielder, back to defender to midfielder, back to defender to midfielder. And so you got guys like Todibo, who I just bought, or Date, or the fullbacks that are scoring very well. And there's a little unsung hero in the middle, Ndi Ashibiye, who was the first recruit of the new sporting director, Florent Gisolfi. We talked about this guy on this podcast before. He used to be the sporting director at Lens, and now he's sporting director in Nice. And he's the first guy he's recruited, and he's doing very, very well in the midfield. I don't know how much it translates, as you can see the scores there. It translates in Sorare, but as far as the game goes, he just recovers so much. He runs everywhere. He's the third defender when they need to have the fullbacks going up. And so he's here to cut a lot of counter-attack. So he's important in that rotation. He doesn't score as well as Todibo or as Bulka, but he's a very important one. It's probably hard to go for the strikers in Nice right now, just because of it's one game yes, one game no, and it's a lot of 1-0s. But Terem Mofi, I think, if he keeps going the way he goes, is probably going to the EPL next year, and his price is going to go pretty high, pretty crazy. So he is, I think, one take to look at for the future as well. But yeah, Nice second in Ligue 1 right now, the only team that's undefeated. Did I read somewhere that they are like one of the 3 undefeated in the whole of Europe as well? And a very, very strong defense that makes up for an attack that is not as pretty at the moment.
I know that manager did get a lot of... he was actually linked to the Celtic job before taking the Nice job, because he was at Sassuolo, wasn't he? So he's definitely building a bit of a reputation for himself and really delivering in France. Like, beating PSG away is always a good result for any aspiring French team, So that's good to see. And like, yeah, a lot of the team, like, I know there's some young talents in there, but a lot of these guys are like Ligue 1, like tried and tested, like Gaëtan Laborde, Morgan Sanson, even Dante. I can't believe he's still playing, So
yeah, right.
They've got like a decently spine there. Melvin Bard, obviously formerly of Lyon. So yeah, good to see how well they're going. But I think maybe Thuram, they were quite lucky to keep a hold of him in the summer. So if they do keep in the top 3, top 2 in that league, maybe he's a January casualty or something. But SO5 wise, I really like Nadishimai. I had him on my channel a few times when he was in Turkey. Really good kind of passer of the ball. I think he took a lot of set pieces in Turkey. So good to see he's finding some AA game in France.
Yeah, he's doing good. He doesn't take the set piece for Nice, but yeah, he's definitely good. And one player that we haven't seen enough at Nice, and I think who's going to have an impact at some point, is Jeremy Boga, who's joined from Sassuolo. He scored the goal against Monaco, and he's not much fit yet because he only plays I think he's played mostly subs and then only one starting, if I'm not mistaken. But you can see that obviously anybody who's seen Jeremy Boga play knows what he can bring. You can see that when he's going to be on form, he's going to make a real difference for Nice. Yeah, started twice.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see that Atalanta scores. It's Sassuolo one, sorry.
Yeah, I had a tough year at Atalanta, but at Sassuolo, that was nice.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I was going to roll out the Lewis Ferguson for my first one. So I say we kind of got Bologna for kind of 2 for 1 there, and so both you guys as well had clubs, and then that kind of made me realise, I've thought about players. So if I was to think about a club that's definitely like a winner at this point in the season, there's not one of the obvious ones that we've tried and tested on the channel a few times. You were going to take us to the Bundesliga, Fedo. So before I go there, I would ask you, who were you going to take us to in the Bundesliga?
As teams
or whatever you had in mind.
Yeah, I had players and teams as well. I had other players in Serie A as well, but I think it's gonna be too lengthy then. But in the Bundesliga, mainly it's gonna be VfB Stuttgart and TSG Hoffenheim.
Ooh, so who do you want?
I can do both if you want.
Who will I put on screen?
Let's go with VfB Stuttgart first because they're second.
Let's go with Stuttgart. Awesome. So yeah, Girassi, the striker, obviously is really grabbing the headlines, and Nubel has been having people pulling his hair out his whole career. But second, Stuttgart. It's a big one, isn't it?
Stuttgart is playing really good football at the moment. And I think the nephew of Uli Hoeneß, Sebastian Hoeneß, is their coach now. So he's the coach of Stuttgart. I think it's the son of the brother, I think, something like that. But his name is Sebastian Hoeneß. And Stuttgart has been really, really good. And they have some big scorers as well. Like Girassi, he's been on fire. He's at the moment a £100 million striker. If you would sell him to the EPL at this point, like he's better than Kane at the moment. And he is scoring left and right. I think at the beginning of the season, I think his first 10 shots were all goals. It was incredible. Like the first 10 shots are all goals. That you have to understand that. Okay, so he's gonna be very good, but you need to pay a bit of attention with him because he's gonna not play in the Bundesliga in January because he's gonna go on the African Cup. So that's very, very important if you are thinking of buying him, which I don't think is a bad idea because Stuttgart seems to have found a groove and he's on a hot streak. And as always in life, momentum counts. And his Africa Cup should still be scored though, right? So he's not gonna score that good, but he still should be scored. So Nübel, he can't keep a clean sheet again, as always. I think if not, we would have seen a lot more Stuttgart stacks winning very, very big rewards because they score a lot of goals, as you see. And also another kid who's very, very good, technically speaking. And if you watch the game, who's super crucial for the game of Hoeneß, and in my opinion, way underrated, but it's fine like this. He's gonna move very soon after the season, probably. Is Enzo Milo, the French kid, in the mid on the number 10. He's superbly good footballer, and he's really playing as an old traditional number 10. His scores are not as great on Sorare as a lot of midfielders because they lose a lot of possession, especially in the Bundesliga, where you lose a lot of possession because it's very counter-attacking. And but if he gets his assists or his goals, he hasn't had an assist. Very strange with Girassi scoring that many goals. But if he would have gone that, his AA would and his overall score would go a lot higher as well. Another guy who used to be very good, he looked like a Kimmich, a small version of Kimmich at the beginning of the season. Now he's gone down a bit, is Atakan Karazor, this guy in the middle, because he's always gets substituted in the 60th, 50th minute so that Stuttgart can play with another striker because Undav always comes in for him, basically. But he used to be, his AA was amazing when he played through and when he actually had the chance to play 90 minutes. Now he's a very, very good midfielder anyways for AA because he's still got 60 just out of AA. That's decent for a midfielder. And yeah, and another guy who needs to be talked about in Stuttgart, except Alexander Nübel, that if he ever keeps a clean sheet, then he will have huge scores as he does like now, is the hit or miss guy itself, Dan Axel Zagadou. If he hits, he's like the darkest green scores you would have ever seen, but he always just either it's a 85 or a 90 or it's a 25, something like that. It's just Dan Axel Zagadou style. And but if you have a Stuttgart stack, I think he's the highest potential, highest ceiling guy in the defense. You would stack with Nübel probably. And Stenzel, this guy has scored good as well, but he had loads of assists. So I'm very impressed with Stuttgart. They play really good. They seem like a go back. Look at these scores. Like, no, go back. Look at these scores. Like, if you have Nübel, Zagadou, Stiller, Karazor, and Girassi, you're probably on the podium in Champion Europe. And that's Freiburg. That's probably going to be one of the losers we talk about next week. But Freiburg normally is not a bad team.
Yeah, agreed. Even this game here, 3-1 against Darmstadt, your boy Milo with an 83, Karazor 72. So yeah, some really good scorers there, Fed. I like that a lot. And I think the Stuttgart, like, you know, I did a Bundesliga video on my channel recently, and I kind of said, like, see, after they get relegated and they've been promoted, they've really struggled to get something going, haven't they? Like the last season and a half, 2 seasons, until this recent form, obviously, they've been kind of mince.
Very interesting. So they went down, basically, and then they went up again, and then they were really good. They weren't even in the contention to playing European. And that was with the coach called Pellegrino Materazzo, who's now the coach of Hoffenheim, by the way. Mm-hmm. And but then he struggled a lot in the last 2 years. They lost a lot, and they were really struggling to keep the relegation. I think once they even played the playoffs to relegation, because in Germany you play the 16th place plays against the 3rd place of the 2nd division, and who wins those 2 games basically goes up or stays in the 1st division. And they had that 2 years ago. Last year they scraped the bottom, but they were not great. I think they were 14th or something like that. But at the end of the season, they got Sebastian Hoeneß, and he turned them around. And he also got them out of the relegation place, because there was a long time during the last season that they were really struggling to go down. And at the end, they got this massive upwind, and that saved them. I think very interesting thing, and maybe people understand a lot of things now. The last 2 seasons, not this one, the last 2 seasons, there was a sporting director at Stuttgart called Sven Mislintat.
Yes.
He then moved to Ajax and made Ajax shit as well. So maybe it's his fault and not the club's fault per se. So that was very interesting to mention. That's why they have some very young kids as well, which is not bad, because Sven Mislintat looked for talents, something like Mohamed Sanko he got from Everton Academy, or Egelov, or something, those kind of kids. And but Stuttgart, interesting. They won the championship, I think, 15 years ago with Mario Gomez, then got transferred to Bayern Munich. And I think Stuttgart is a pleasant watch and a big surprise. I would have never thought they would have been that good.
Yeah. Anything from Stuttgart for you, Jeremy?
Oh, like everybody talks about Serhou Guirassy, right? The guy was in Rennes, and now in 7 games, he scored more goals than he's ever scored in a single season, I think, in all his career. So he's definitely a star. But yeah, like what Fedo was just saying, like you got the nephew of Uli Hoeneß in there, and you got Mislintat who left, and all of a sudden they play better. So it's interesting. Apparently, Stephen Honest, I can't remember which team he was coaching before, but apparently he kept being told that he'll never be as good as his uncle, etc. And he's like, apparently he has weighed a lot on his shoulder. So they said that Stuttgart wasn't the right club for him because he was too much media as well around it. But good that he was able to go for. But yeah, I've followed the team, but obviously only once. Kirasi was scoring a bucket of goals and was unstoppable already.
Sebastian Hoeneß used to manage Hoffenheim, which now the other former coach of Stuttgart manages.
Yeah, it's funny how it all turns around in football sometimes, doesn't it? In that sense.
At a certain point, after they fired Materazzo, they had the eternal Bruno Labbadia. I don't know if any of you know this guy.
Yeah.
His mantra, his whole mantra of coaching is basically you have to outrun everybody. You just have to have more stamina than your opponent. Basically, you have to be more fit. That's his whole coaching mantra. But that didn't work. And then I think in the same season they also fired him, and then they got Sebastian Hoeneß.
Yeah. Busy one. The reason I asked you to pick one of them because they're pretty much the only ones in the Bundesliga that we've not really spoke about too much on this show yet that have been doing pretty well. So I'll put on screen Hoffenheim and I can at least try and get us through this one ever so slightly. But Hoffenheim, like out and out attacking team in their blood, and it's good to see that they're starting to score goals again. They've never liked keeping clean sheets, and that's fine. But they've got themselves kind of into the top 5, doing it the old Hoffenheim way. 3-4-3, 3-5-2, depends on how you want to think of it. Depends what individual game you want to talk about. But, similarly to Leipzig feel like they've went right back into like proper Red Bull paint by numbers, play this shape. And, that's why some of the older players are getting minutes again. But this feels like Hoffenheim are back at their kind of DNA of gung-ho, end-to-end football, just going for it.
1000%. I think it's very important for them that Kramaric has been very crucial this season. He's been very good this season again. Now he's injured, but I think he should be back in no time less. So I think he's just injured for the international break. He has been crucial, as you see. And if Kramaric is going, Hoffenheim is going. Normally it's called Rückrunden Kramaric, which would mean that he's basically the guy for the second half of the season, like Monaco. But now he seems to be the Hinrunden Kramaric. So he's been very decent, as you see from his scores. And that's a big upside for Hoffenheim and why they are where they are right now. And I think that would be also the most informed player with Guirassy and Leroy Sané in the Bundesliga, probably.
Yeah. It's good to see him living his best life at 32. Kramaric is one of these guys that, if we zoom out, he's had periods like this before. Not for a while, really, but he is quality. But he's always got a wee injury. He's always got a wee bit of bad form. And then, he's just never really moved on from Hoffenheim. And it's been one of these weird ones where when he is in this proper form, it's so strange that people don't come in for him. And it feels like maybe he's just kind of, at this point, he's definitely just accepting, hey, I'm a Hoffenheim player, and let's just give it a roll, and he just went for it this year.
Maybe he's gonna go back for like 2 years, maybe to Croatian League, but I don't think he's not gonna go to Dortmund. He's not gonna go to Bayern, and he's certainly not going to the EPL.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, really strong midfield as well, because when they lost Baumgartner to Leipzig, I was maybe a wee bit worried where their goals in midfield would come from. But getting Grealish in and then sliding Kramaric back into midfield, it just seems to have worked out for them as well. Grisha Prommel obviously coming in with some big decisives this year already.
Weghorst was a big factor of why they're good as well, because he's linking up very good with Kramaric as well. Wout Weghorst, decent player if he's not playing for Manchester United.
Yeah. He's one of these guys.
Everybody is
pretty tidy if it's not at the top level, I know bad from the big man in midfield. But yeah, like Hoffenheim, and if they're fifth at the moment, no midweek European football. They're going weekend to weekend, which, contrary to some of the other teams that are kind of floating around these top divisions, if you can keep scoring 3 goals or more every match, and you don't need to worry about playing midweek football, you're going to be a real danger. And for playing Sorare, if you're chasing decisives, I think this whole starting 11 is decisive capable, depending on the match, really. It's just a wee bit of pot luck in some respects.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very good. I think Kramaric is good enough for being in a Champ Europe starting lineup. Baumann has very good AA. If he keeps a clean sheet, you're counting on a massive score as well. He's also been crucial for them. He's been very good.
Back to his best, isn't he?
Yeah, he's
obviously 2 rubbish scores recently, but
yeah,
goals considered,
but
doesn't it?
you need those 84s, those 91s to really win those divisions. That's the most important, because if you have like a Mike Magnon or a Manuel Neuer who's going to have 60, 64, 65, you have a big gap to those kind of keepers. Of course, they're more consistent than Baumann's, but you need those big scores to win the divisions. That's why if we're going to go to the Premier League, I'm going to tell another name later. But just one thing about the Bundesliga, I think one guy I would really look an eye to is Kim Min-jae. I think he's now gotten into the groove of FC Bayern Munich. He's scoring phenomenally, and I think the whole defense is going to stabilize a lot more now that Neuer is back against Mainz. Neuer should be in goal. So if you have Neuer, Kim Min-jae stack, that's brilliant. Look at the last 4 games he played: 100, 98, 87. Last game, I think he had 100. I think he had 1,500 something passes. Or, I don't know, a lot of passes, a lot. Let's check the passes. It's not 1,000.
157.
Yeah, 157 passes. That's a lot of passes for him, and he seems to be the most nailed on center back for Bayern Munich. And I think I think Neuer, Kim Min-jae stacks are gonna be very dominant very soon.
I can see it, man. He's not doesn't do less than 50, really, does he? I know there's a 47 and a 49 here, but you're kind of splitting hairs on that one.
and Neuer is going to be super crucial for the Bayern games. He's much more important than a lot of people think.
He's back on the grass as well, isn't he? I'm seeing and hearing, so
playing.
He's very expected to be back.
Apparently, it's 80% chance he plays against Mainz.
Oh, nice. Really good time then. If you've been holding on to those cat mode DNP Neuers, they'll all be coming good now when we come back. So that's good to see. And then we're getting Charlie Dunbar chiming in on the goalkeeper chat we're having there. Nick Pope's a 65 merchant, and it's killing me at the moment. Yeah, definitely. I think to get onto the podiums and stuff, you do feel the goalkeeper needs a 70, 75. If you've got your outfielders popped, you need to get, not necessarily like 80s and 90s are fantastic, but yeah, you need to get 10, 12, 15 AA points on top of that clean sheet to really make it, count.
100%.
Nice bonus, and XP helps too as well. Because I had a guy, I can't remember who it was, maybe an All Blackers, Joe Hart. Somebody did like a 64, and then with XP multipliers, it came in at a 72, and it was like, I don't know what the numbers were, but it was something like that, and it's like, wow, that made a big difference.
Yeah, I think the best thing you can do is something like have a goalie of a very dominant team that scores 70 and have it on like 10%, and you have scoring a 77. I think that's a very competitive score. Yeah. Like Ter Stegen gets 70s a lot, even though he has not as much to do.
Yeah. Aye, because he's still got to catch stuff and save and do passing and whatnot. Fair enough. Jeremy, take us away, buddy.
Well, we talk about Ter Stegen, so maybe we go to Spain for a second. Just go across Europe. And I want to talk a team that I guess we kind of all know, but just because I think they play a bit different. Atletico, I like what I'm seeing. I've seen a little bit of the 7-0, but I didn't see it all because it wasn't that interesting. But I've seen a little bit how they play, and I can't help. And there you go. Let's travel through time, you and me. I can't help but remembering like my first coach that really really impressed football on me when I was like 14, 15, kept saying every single day, every single training, every single game, play triangles, don't let triangles go. Whatever you do, play triangles. And when I saw Atletico play this year compared to, I think, former years, that's all you see. Like you only see them moving around using those triangles to make space. And they are killing any team who dares pressing them a little bit high. And they're doing that, I think, very well this season. And we can see even players that you almost thought were sort of like not lost, but maybe too old or whatever, Koke,
Saul.
Saul, etc. Coming back and actually playing okay. Of course, the big winner in that team clearly is Antoine Griezmann. Like, he's playing the football of his life, and he's very, very free right now with Atletico Madrid, because the fact that they're playing like this, and you can see, like, it's weird that it's 3-5-4, because it looks like they're defending with 4 flat most of the time, with Hermoso playing a bit lower. But you can see that, like, Hermoso puts the ball up straight away, and then they do those triangles, and every single time they are going to look for Griezmann, whether he's in the middle or on the side, and he always gets the ball to create something, and that's obviously why his scores are like pretty amazing since the beginning of the season. But yeah, a team that is 4th right now, only 8 goals conceded in 8 games, but I guess more surprisingly 20 goals scored, which is maybe what not what the narrative is about Diego Simeone. And I was looking into, I was trying to find who had done a good tactical analysis, and I lost myself for the past couple of hours, like reading, I think his name is AM10 Talk, who wrote the whole thing about what they call the Cholo Taka football of 2023-2024, where you really see them just playing better football than before, and it's probably finally the key for them to find a way. I don't think we've seen that pretty football against Real Madrid, because as soon as they scored, they just defended, which is obviously still part of Simeone's DNA. But yeah, I guess I was pleasantly surprised. Like, they are the team that historically has been boring, and now they actually play good football and are actually interesting to watch. So yeah, I don't know how much Atletico Madrid you've been able to catch this season, but I've been pleasantly surprised by what they do.
It's crazy. Sorry, I couldn't go on.
No, you go.
It's crazy that Simeone is already 12 years at Atletico Madrid. 12 years. Unbelievable. I haven't seen a single game of Atletico. I haven't seen much Liga Bilbao, to be honest, or EA Sports Liga, however you call it now. But I'm very glad now that we looked through the Dyer show of that Mario Hermoso is playing every game, because I always liked Mario Hermoso. I always thought he was a very good player. He always had a lot of grinta, a lot of passion for the game, and when he plays, I always loved. He's not scoring great, but I'm glad for him that he always plays.
I'm surprised about his score, to be honest, because if you see how they play, he's the first guy to start the build up almost every single time. Like, the ball might turn around from keeper to defender, and then he goes to Hermoso, and then Hermoso is the one who gets the ball up. So yeah, when I saw the scores, I was like, obviously there's a few like lost balls and duel lost and stuff like that in there, but yeah, he's really important for them.
Yeah, the team's been really stretched. If you look at the way the last kind of 4 or 5 teams have went out, they've got a lot of injuries. Morata picked up a red card and got a little bit of a suspension as well, and that's why we're seeing Saul, Koke, a lot of these guys coming back into the reckoning. Axel Witsel playing in the middle of the back 3 because they're the losing guy. Like, Savic is coming off the bench here. Jimenez is injured. Soyuncu, who they've signed. So I think they're doing really well, considering that the starting 11 hasn't stayed the same for 2 games in a row. I don't think. I think there's always somebody in and out. And probably one of the big surprise packages is this guy here, who's come in to replace Carrasco. And you guys will know, most people watching the show might remember Carrasco playing left wing for Atletico Madrid. It's like he's an attacking winger, but Simeone plays him left back. But if you actually watch Atleti, he doesn't really do much left back work. Well, he's kind of given that role to this guy, and this is shown for a midfielder card. He's actually a forward card. That's a pretty good start to life, considering he's playing left back. If he can keep the decisives up, maybe a wee bit of a cheat code on the cards this season. But Lino, some young talents coming through in this team for once.
Yep. And it's what feels a bit new, right? About Simeone, you got Lino, Hermoso. I mean, Hermoso has a bit more experience, but it looks like it used to be only like old players that he knew he could rely on, and now there's a little bit more, I guess, risk taken in a way, but also maybe because the team is stretched and injured. But yeah, Lino has obviously made a pretty decent start with them.
Yeah, big time. I think for La Liga, everyone wants to look at, everyone kind of is immediately drawn to, certainly, Girona at the very least. Mm-hmm. But for me, and again, this probably won't surprise many folk, right? I don't know. I could talk about a few different teams in terms of who's done kind of well to start this season, right? Depending on what your take is. I think SO5 wise, the best one to talk about is La Real Sociedad, who are sitting in 6th at the moment. I was tempted to mention Getafe, right? Because I think for a team that plays 8 defenders every match, they're doing it. I think they're overperforming significantly. But Sociedad have been much more fun, and their season started a bit shakier. A couple of 3 draws and a bounce before getting their first win, and then they get beat off Real Madrid. But it's really this draw that they had with Inter Milan kind of kick-started their season a little bit. They had everyone kind of fit and available all together for one match and got what they felt a really good result on the night. But then had a nice wee run of form here that has kind of cemented them into this 6th position. But it's all the people that are getting involved. We're seeing decisives for all the key players in the squad: Oyarzabal, Braze, even Marino there from the bench, Take Kubo, Berentia. And we're starting to see as well guys like Zakarian, Andre Silva coming from the bench. So they're actually got quite a strong 15 or 16 players bubbling away in this squad that, if they can keep a good run of form going up here. Like you can see here, even in a 2-0 win, I know it's Salzburg, it's Champions League, but that could be a league match. There's a lot of good scoring footballers there. They're playing a lot of possession, attacking, progressive football. They're not swinging balls into the box. They're trying to slide the ball between the channels and have nice link-up play.
Quinny,
on you go.
Counter question to you. Are they that surprising? Because as you said, they play Champions League, so they became in the top 4 last season as well.
I would say they are surprising because I don't think they were that good for finishing 4th last season. I don't think they were that great. Like David Silva was decent, and who did they maybe have somebody on? I know it's David Silva retired, right? But I think they maybe had somebody else that's not there now that wasn't that great. Brais Mendes, Mikel Merino, and Zubimendi last year as a midfield were okay as well. Like, they were decent, don't get me wrong, but I think the big difference for them, right? See, when I looked at them last year, I didn't have much faith that the manager was doing much with the team. Similar to Girona last year, where I thought was probably they're better off because they've got good players rather than the manager's really giving them much of a plan. But I've really seen a bit from the manager, and I think I've really seen a bit from a lot of these individuals that they're stepping into that level where they could be, like they could join Atleti and make it a real top 4. They could be that team that kind of maybe push the envelope in La Liga and make it their own. Because guys like Take Kubo, again, he's having a great season, but you need guys like that to take the jump. Kang In Lee had a good year last year. I didn't think it was that good where he deserved to move to PSG off the back of it, So I think it's one of those ones where just because it's a wonder kid and you see him do well, it's like, oh yeah, it's a bit of a given. But sometimes these guys haven't actually delivered, and we just know them by name. Whereas it feels like he is delivering now.
Marketing money.
I understand. So now that you know all the information now, and you have seen quite, I think, like a third of the season already played out, who do you think is going to be the top 4 in the La Liga EA Sports FC 20 whatever?
Based on what I've just said there, it's hard to look past the big 3 plus La Real. But Girona not having any midweek football, like they are always just going to be in amongst it all season. So I think it depends on Sociedad. I think the best thing that could happen to Sociedad is finishing 1st or 2nd in their group. I think because they probably would only have one more round of Champions League football. If they go into Thursday football, they probably stay there all season, and that might derail them domestically, maybe. So I've got quite a thin squad. I say 15 players isn't much when you're playing midweek and weekend all season long. So I don't know, mate. That's a really hard question.
So you think Girona is going to play Champions League next year?
I wouldn't write it off, man. I wouldn't write it off.
Okay.
I think talking to La Real again, to La Real, where you see that they're also doing some smart move. It's kind of the team where every year you're like, is that the year that they've maxed out what they can do? But when I saw them getting Amari Traore over the break, like that's such a smart move. The guy coming from free. If you don't watch Rennes or French football, you don't know the guy. Like he was almost 30 years old and a captain in the team in Northwest of France. And you're getting him, you know that he can do everything on his wing. And he's like, Kubo must love having him behind him because he's such a hard worker and he can put the ball in the different space. But you get a guy like this on a free from Rennes to go and play the Champions League. I think it's very, very smart recruitment there. Just one example of what they do right.
Yeah, big time. I'm with you. Who's got next?
Fedo, who do you have in La Liga?
Yeah, I don't watch as much La Liga, to be honest, so I wouldn't have an opinion about it. And but just now that I see the scoring, I think much better than last year seems to be Valencia, because they were also a relegation team last year, kind of, and now they seem to have settled somehow. Of course, I am very, very baffed about Girona, how good they have been. I still think Barcelona is the best team in the league, especially how they play. I think Real Madrid.
I think Real Madrid is the best team in the league.
Nah, I think Barcelona is a better team than Real Madrid. The Real Madrid has a better player, but Barcelona is the better team. If you understand what I mean, and
I think
Madrid,
let's stay there for a second. I think Real Madrid, because Ancelotti is playing them the way he was playing Milan, is a better team. The 4-4-2 losange and Bellingham as a like number 10 that goes between Vinicius and Rodrigo makes them a better team right now.
I tell you one thing. I would be shocked if Real wins the league. Ooh. I would be shocked, for real.
Okay.
Because I think Jude is saving them so many points. It's unbelievable, and it's gonna end sometimes this run. And
sure, but look where they are without Courtois and without Militao.
1,000%, but they concede a lot, and that's why Jude is really saving them a lot of points, in my opinion.
But
because I watched
Vinny's back now.
Vinny's back now, but he wasn't as good, and maybe now they make Jude a bit worse as well, because you have to fit in Rodrigo and Vinny in front, and then Jude behind. And when Vinny was not there, Jude basically played as a striker, and he can play anywhere. Anyways, he's phenomenal. I don't want to talk of he's the best for real. But I think he can't keep saving them. Like it's and in general, let's take away Granada against Barcelona. I think Barcelona is the better team, and they know how to win a match easier than Real Madrid needs. Real Madrid still needs to fall back sometimes to your individuals, and I think Barcelona has not that risk as much as Real Madrid. You understand what I mean? That's more the direction.
Yeah. I think it's because they don't have the same talent in individuals. But I think what
as well, yes. But I agree.
Like, you know what I mean? The best player of Barcelona are not as good anymore. Like it's dick picking as the best player at Real Madrid. Like they don't have Vinicius and Bellingham, for example, to name just them.
They don't have Jude.
Like they have young players that are getting crazy, and a guy like Lewandowski who's a bit less good than what he used to be, even though he's like, I'm not disrespecting Lewandowski and he can score in any position or whatever.
What Barca is missing is good wingers, to be honest. I think Bajao seems to come back to being better. I'm not saying he's gonna be the best, because I think he lost my trust forever, but he's going to become better. He's becoming better in a way. And I think
it's the offensive animation that they're missing.
Yes, the thing is, what I love about Barca, and I'm a Real Madrid fan, don't get me wrong. I like in Spain, I like Real Madrid the most. Always did. I always hated Barca. But I do like what Xavi built from defensive and midfield. I think the defense and the midfield of Barca is so good. It's unbelievable. I think this defensive and midfield is Champions League trophy worthy, to be honest. And Ter Stegen is also unbelievably good. And behind Courtois, the best goalkeeper, obviously. I think he's even better than Oblak. And I think I agree that Real is way better in the first third, like let's say the attack. But I think the other 2/3 of the pitches, Barca is better. Not on the names, but on how they are organized and how Xavi plays them. And Carlo, I like Carlo, and I will never say he's a bad gaffer because he won so much. If I say that, I'm crazy. You know what I mean? But I think the tactical genius and how Xavi prepares his teams is way above what Carlo does. Carlo is more like a communicator, more like Jurgen Klopp. He's not a genius in knowing football. You understand?
The main manager.
Exactly. He's a people's manager, and he's the best for that. And Real Madrid needs a manager like him because they're just all individuals, all are stars. Everybody is good on its own to be world changing, you know. And yeah, so I hope I'm right because that would mean that I understand what I'm talking about. But I think Barca should win the league.
I think they've been not. It's reducing that, but I think they've been not found out. But I think Xavi last year really impressed everybody and I guess kind of shocked them with that defensive midfield, which I kind of agree. But I think this year, I don't know whether they were complacent at the start, but the goal that they concede, even when they win, like even when they smash Vigo or who was it that? Yeah, Villarreal or whatever. The goal they concede is not goal that you're supposed to concede. So I don't know if it's, some it's individual mistakes and some it's just lack of focus. But yeah, it's the second year of Xavi really in charge of it. Yeah, anyway, I'm not saying that what you say is not true. They're strong defensively and midfielder, but I feel like they're not as crazy
for the defensive part. For the defensive part, it's very for the defensive stability, not the defensive way to play forward, because for that is Jules Koundé, and he is out now for 6 weeks. So I'm gonna be interesting how Barca's gonna cope with that loss, because I think Jules Koundé is immensely important for Xavi because he is a regista in the back for them, basically. But for the stability as of not conceding goals, he's not the best. But I think Ronald Araujo, who's coming in, is going to be the general for that. And it's going to be a lot better. And I really, when I saw that Barca could win the Champions League, is when they played Porto. Because Porto was better in that game, a lot better than Barca. But Barca still won. And that's exactly the teams that win the Champions League. Because it's just, you focus as a team, it's upper, and even in those games where you should not win, you win. And that's what happened with Milan as well, but Milan is nowhere near how good Barca is, by the way.
Sure. I think it's going to be a really tough one as well, because like Xavi's really, I think he's really cracked it with Barca. I think the Gundogan signing unleashes more De Jong, and I think that's kind of the main difference between the two. Is it feels like, yeah, Real Madrid have got Modric and Kroos, don't get me wrong, right? But it feels like Barca have finally got that cultured midfielder in there that kind of elevates their team up that they've not really had, because Busquets isn't that guy anyway when he was at the team. And when you bring in De Jong, you've got Gavi, Pedri, Frank Kessie running around. They didn't really have that same Iniesta, Xavi kind of feel to the midfield anymore, or even when they've had guys like Deco or Rakitic in, it didn't really, but it feels like now even Romeo could get some credit in this picture as well, perhaps. But it does feel like that midfield is like tiki-taka'd, Xavi'd up, and Lewandowski's starting to score more goals. The wingers, as we've mentioned, there aren't top caliber, but they're doing a lot right, Barca and Felix and Lewandowski. I think Barca could be a really good La Liga winner this year. I think Atleti were my tip at the beginning of the season, and I don't know, man, they need to get people back fit quickly to keep that form up, in my opinion. But it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
I agree with you. But now that I think about it, which is very crazy what Xavi did something very strange. Barca was never renowned for being the best defense in a way, but I think the best part about Barca at this moment is the defense. What they have going on there is absolutely crazy. I think the only triangle, let's say Koundé, Araujo, Ter Stegen, the only triangle that's better in the world is probably Manchester City's. That's the only one.
And Marseille's.
Oh yeah. How was Rino Gattuso, by the way? How are you enjoying that, Jeremy?
So far so good. He's probably listened and seen all the things that Tudor has done, so he's saying the exact same thing. He's saying how it's such a passionate club and how we have to defend well, and he told the player publicly, I don't care what you do outside of the game, but when you're in the game, you have to die for me and die for this jersey. And so, of course, all the fans are loving that in Marseille. Then it's just about the results, right? He get results, and you get whatever you want. Like, you were not able to beat Monaco, you're not able to beat Brighton. you beat Le Havre because they're 10 players after 14 minutes. So we'll see. He plays Nice and all that coming soon. So they're definitely, there's much better intensity defensively. And like, I put my money where my mouth is. That's why I got Mbemba and Paul Lopez in the past couple of weeks on Sorare, because it looks like they're going to score well now. But yeah, the jury is still out. We'll see. We're changing everything anyway. We lost Ribalta, has resigned from Marseille, the sporting director, and we're about to get Benatia, the defender that used to be at Bayern Munich,
Moroccan guy,
and somewhere in Italy. He's apparently like one of the new wonder kids of sporting directors and agents. Everybody loves him. He can speak 4 languages. He's got relationships everywhere. So yeah. Anyway, cool. It's another day in paradise in Marseille. You always change everything, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. Okay, I think that's about all we've got time for this week. I had a great one going through a lot of the winners we had across the top leagues in Europe. And guys, we'll be back next week.
Premier League?
No, we'll maybe slide them in later. We need to go.
Okay.
But we'll be back next week. We'll maybe slide in Premier League winners and losers, but we'll definitely get into some losers across the top leagues as well. I don't know if we'll be back at the same time next week, but we will be back next week, 100%. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button to make sure you don't miss out on any of the content from ourselves or any of the other fantastic contributors here on the Sorare TV channel. Jeremy, Fedo, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having us as usual.
Whoop, whoop.